kind of the opposite list. What would you like to introduce? Yeah, sorry, so I'm looking at the economist here at Swansea. A lot of what we see is expenditure. What, as part of this, are you doing to protect and not spending, but I'm seeing like obvious connectivity. I'm glad to see the West Pass. If you're going to put a Western Pass rail, presumably you would pass along the old line here to be quicker into Swansea. Yes, I'm watching housing getting built, I'm watching things. So if there's ambition and desire to move things forward, what protection is being put in place to ensure that the wider vision could be realised after these smaller projects? Broad benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, there have been a number of proposals put forward in terms of the connectivity. Not universally agreed, because with some of the ones that came forward, they would mean certain communities potentially getting a worse service. So we're not at the point yet where we've got a fully formed, agreed way of delivering that transport connectivity. Look, there is master planning taking place, and one of the things that the new regional arrangements will allow is for us to have strategic planning, as well as a joint transport authority which runs across the region. That's something we miss at the moment because, if you remember, Switch was done away with in the previous proposal. I think whilst we've continued as local authority partners to work together on transport, formalising that into a joint transport authority will be a much better way of working. I would hope that we are considerative in our master planning at the moment, that we don't put developments in a way that would prevent future aspirations being met. But at the present time, I'm not able to share with you the detail of what the metro specifics look like, other than the outline you see on the screen.
Although, to be fair, in our first conference, we did have Mark Barry come along to describe what that might look like.
Yeah.
Can I thank you very much, Rob, for the time of meeting. You'll join us for the panel discussion. Very good, so it's really fun. So now the next speaker is Helen Ackwin. Could you just check you've got your translation working? Mae Helen yw'r arweinydd Cyngor Ceredigion. Mae hwn yn arweinydd y Cyngor ers gwneud yn 2012. Mae hwn yn cynghorydd am 20 mlynedd. Ac yn weithgar iawn yn lleol un y sefydlwyr cwmni theatr ar Adborch. I'r sawl sy'n nabod waith y cwmni theatr. Ac hefyd yn weithgar iawn wedi bod yn weithgar y Llywodraethwr Coleg Ceredigion a Prifysgol Aberystwyth. A mae'n ymwneud i eich galach i mae Elen. A mae Elen yn arbennig am mae Ceredigion a Powys sydd gyda'i gilydd yn gyfrifon datblygu partneriaeth diddorol iawn y partneriaeth y canolbarth. Ac wrth gwrs, rhan fwyaf o'r ardala yn wledig iawn. Felly diolch Elen.
Diolch yn fawr, ac diolch yn fawr am y gwahoddiad i bod yma. Mae wedi bod yn hynod o ddifyr i wrando ar y siarad yn ei gilydd ac i glywed lle mae pob un o'r gweithio tyfu yna yn wedi cyrraedd erbyn hyn. Fel ddedodd Aled, dwi wedi bod yn y swydd yma ers 2012. Ac o'r dechrau mae datblygu economi wedi bod yn un o'n mlaenoriaethau i. A roedd y cyn-wyndo, Edwina Hart, yn arfer cynnal cyfarfodydd rheolaeth gyda ni ar Wynyddion, y 22 ohono ni, bob rhyw chwarter. Oedd hi'n arwain ar beth oedd hi chynlluniau hi, ac yn un o'r cyfarfodydd cyntaf hynny, oedd hi'n dweud, well, I want to meet with the 10 leaders of the South East to discuss the metro. A wedyn, ddedodd hi, and I've asked Leslie Bridges to lead on the electrification of the North Wales Railway line. A fy nes i yn y diwedd, excuse me Minister, what are your plans for rural mid Wales? Chys i ddim. Ar y dechrau. Ond, yn y cyfarfod nesaf, fe ofynodd i fi, a fynnodd i'r drochoddiad yna, a dweud, I would like you to lead on setting up a partnership for Midway. Felly o leia oedd y drws yna wedi agor. A dyna lle gychwynnodd sefydlu'r partneriaeth sydd bellach yn cael ei alw yn tyfu Canolbarth Cymru. Mae hwn yn fwy na'r bargen drwf, mae hwn wedi sefydlu cyn hynny. Mae'r arweinyddion oedd nid yr un arweinydd oedd yn gyd arweinydd efo fi ar y dechrau, ond ni yn newid cadwyddiaeth yr partneriaeth mawr yna am nail flwyddyn. Wedyn mae gyfle i bywys efo dwy sir yn rhannu'r partneriaeth. Mae rhaid i fod yn falchus bod ni'n cadw pethau disgyn wastad allwch chi ddweud. Alla bod yn llwyddo i weithio ar lefel 6 neu 4 neu 10. Ond yna weledigaeth gref ar gyfer y Llyfrgell Economaidd Canolbarth Cymru sydd fel Canolbarth wedi dioddau fwy na'r heliw o siroedd oddi wrth y dirwasgiad sy'n deillio o'r toriadau defn yma da ni gyd wedi bod yn dioddau mewn gwaith cyhoeddus dros y 8 mlynedd diwetha. Mae economi Ceredigion yn unig er enghraifft wedi bod yn orddifynol ar y sector cyhoeddus dros y blynyddoedd, sef 20% o boblogaeth yn dibynnu arno fe. Ac o'r ffaith bod y boblogaeth wedi gostwng 3% dros y blynyddoedd diwetha yn dangos yn glir bod yna wendig yn ein economi sydd angen datrysiad penodol. Achos beth o'n i'n gweld oedd nad oedd unrhyw ffocws o gwbl ar y gwir anghenion mewn ardal mor wledig a Powys a Cheredigion. Felly dyna un o'r pethau dwi'n yrru. Felly roedd clywed newyddion annisgwyl wir oddi wrth cyn ganhello'r ychwanegol yn ei ddatganiad cyllideb ar ddiwedd 2017 bod bargen drwf neu growthdi ar gael i partneriaeth tyfu'r Canolbarth hefyd yn hwb aruthrol ymlaen i ni. Fe gafodd ddatganiad tebyg i wneud yn y gyllideb ar ddiwedd 2018 hefyd. Amser y ddengys a fydd pa bynnag lywodraeth fydd ganddo ni yn San Steffan yn dilyn yr etholiad nesaf yn parhau gyda'r addewidion hyn. Does neb ohono ni'n gwybod beth yw'r dyfodol o ran y bargeinion, dim un ohonyn nhw ddim yn wir. Ond bydd ddatganiad bod ffynhonnell o arian ar gael yn rhan allweddol, ond dyw e ddim yr unig ffynhonnell i wireddu ein gweledigaeth ni. Mae gweledigaeth yn gosod y sail i yrru newid economaidd rhanbarthol sydd tair angen yn enwedig yn y cyfnod cythryblus presennol, gyda bygythiad Brexit yn hongian i'w penpennau. Mae GVA y rhanbarth ymysg yr isaf yn y Deyrnas Unedig, felly mae tyfu swyddi yn bwysig. Ond mae hefyd angen gwella'n cynhyrchiad sydd wedi clywed am ei eisoes, productivity sydd yn bwysig. Fel rhanbarth, mae twf niferoedd swyddi Canolbarth wedi tracio debyg iawn i gyfraddau genedlaethol, ond mae'r lefel cynhyrchiad yn dal i fod am y lefel tebyg i be oedden nhw'n ôl yn yr 1980. A mae rhaid i hyn newid, a mae'r rhanbarth yn glir bod angen gweledigaeth glir a ffyrdd newydd o weithredu i symud ymlaen. Mae angen ffocws ar dyfu swyddi sy'n talu'n dda llawer gwell na beth sydd ar gael ar hyn o bryd, ac yn cyfrannu ni ddim unig i'r economi, ond i'n cymdeithas wledig Cymreig ni hefyd. Mae economia Ceredigion a Powys yn rhannu sawl agwedd cyffredin, maen nhw'n wledig yn amlwg, maen nhw'n ddibynnol ar sectorau economaidd penodol. Mae yna sgiliau uchel ar gael yn y gweithlu, ond yn anffodus rydyn ni'n gweld allfudo gormod o'n pobl ifanc i addysg uwch yn y llefydd eraill sydd yn naturiol, ond tristwch y peth yw, does dim digon o swyddi o safon digon uchel i'w denu nhw yn ôl. A mae hyn yn ei dro yn gwanio mewn cymunedau cynhenid Cymreig a Chymraeg. Ond, i fod yn fwy cadarnhaol, mae cyfleoedd i gael yn y nesebau rhanbarthol ein adnoddau naturiol. Yn mynydd ar môr, ein pobl ifanc, sydd eto lenni yn dangos yn cael ei chyddysgu i safonau uchel iawn ac yn ei busnesau cynhenid. Ac yn y ddwy brifysgol sydd ganddo ni yn Ngheredigion, beth bynnag, mae'n hyfryd weld bod llawer yn digwydd eisoes wrth sefydlu canolfan arloesi a menter y Brifysgol yn Aberystwyth yn arbennig, sydd yn cynnig bellach cyfle i glysterau busnesau gyda'r byd, clystyru busnesau yn y tro, gyda'r byd ymchwil ac academaidd i ysgogi twf uwch. Mae cyfleoedd yn datblygu i arian preifat buddsoddi hefyd yn y rhanbarth mewn gwaith ymchwil a thechnoleg uwch, gan alunio gyda'r cynnig addysg rhagorol sydd ar gael eisoes yn y rhanbarth, a'n cynnig gobeithio y swyddi gwerth uchel i'n pobl ifanc i'r dyfodol. Yn hyn o beth, mae'n dda cydnabod cefnogaeth ariannol diweddar gan y Llywodraeth i'r Brifysgol i edrych ar ddatblygu canolfan spectrwm cenedlaethol. A mae hwnna yn faes penodol ar gyfer adran ffiseg y Brifysgol mewn cydweithrediad a'r sector breifat. A dwi yn wir gobeithio beth hwnnw'n cynnig cyfleoedd economaidd ar draws y rhanbarth. Mae tyfu economi canolbarth Cymru gyda goblygiadau i economi Cymru gyfan. Mae canolbarth yn ardal ddaearyddol eang 39% o dirwedd Cymru sydd yn cydio coridor yr M4, ni clywed amdano fo gan Ron, a coridor A55 y bryd ddim yn gweld bod yn efo gymaint o gyswllt. Ond ar y tawaith, mae yn bwysig bod ni ddim yn colli ffocws ar yr ardal eang yna rhwng y ddau begwn. Y perigyddau anwybyddu yn enwedig yn wyno fod heriau economaidd enfyd sydd wedi dod fel dwi wedi dweud yn sgil Brexit. Os ydym ni am dyfu economi Cymru, mae angen sicrhau fod twf cynaladwy ym mhob rhan o'r wlad. Mae cyfleoedd yma yn sgil y ffocws ar yr economi sylfaen, y foundation economy, ond hefyd mae cyfleoedd i greu diwydiannau newydd yna. Gan y canolbarth lyd o busnesau bach a micro dros 90% ohonyn nhw wir busnesau ni o'r lefel yna. Felly mae'n gweledigaeth i dyfu ein busnesau i fewn i rhai canolig yn rhan hollol allweddol o'r gweledigaeth. Ond bydd angen cydweithio sylweddol mewn partneriaeth rhwng y rhanbarth ac amryw asiantaethau llywodraeth, megis Busnes Cymru a Banc Datblygu ac ati. Byddai cyflawni trwy busnesau canolbarth Cymru i greu mittelstand Gymraeg yn cael effaith sylweddol ar yr economi yn genedlaethol, a mae yna gyfle yma i fanteisio arno fe. Mae themau trawsgorol hefyd wedi eu hadnabod, ni wedi clywed amdanyn nhw yn ddigon cyffredin, sef trafnidiaeth ac fel ddedodd Ron yn harach ynglyn â'r sefyllfa'r cydweithio rhanbarthol dwi'n cynt, da ni wedi cadw y cydweithio rhanbarthol canolbarth, sef trac, at ei gilydd, am hwnna yn cynnwys De Gwynedd, sef yr elfen meirionedd, felly da ni'n cydweithio gyda'n gilydd ar tyfu yr ochr neu ar hyrwyd yr ochr trafnidiaeth. Is-adeiledd a'r digidol. Hyn yn rhan o'n hymdrechion i osod allan gweledigaeth gyflawn fel sylfaen i dyfu economi canolbarth Cymru, sydd o'r wedi dweud wedi cael ei estyluso i ni cychwyn o lefel Tafer y Nis. I ddod yn ôl at y fargen dŵr, gan bod y dair rhanbarth arall wedi cael y blaen arno ni, rydyn ni'n gweithio yn galed iawn i ddal i fyny. Rydyn ni yn y broses o ddatblygu fargen dŵr yn unol a chryfder ein cyfleoedd ni yn rhanbarthol. Mae economi canolbarth Cymru yn wahanol iawn i'r ddinas rhanbarthau, a felly angen trefniadau sy'n ymateb ac yn fwy perthnasol i'n hanghenion ni. Mae partneriaeth gref rhwng y ddwy lywodraeth a'r rhanbarth, sef yr awdurdodau lleol, y sefydliadau addysg uwch, y sector breifat ac eraill, fel sydd yn y dair rhanbarth arall. Mae llawer o waith wedi digwydd tu ôl i'r llenni i gael torri, i gael llywodraethiant a weledigaeth yn glir ac yn gywir. Pwynt dysgu allweddol, dwi'n meddwl, ni wedi gael o'r rhai rhanbarth arall, os ydych chi'n clywed sut maen nhw wedi mynd ati. A cyngor cryf y ddwy lywodraeth i ni oedd bod angen i ni yn y canolbarth wario amser yn gosod ein sylfaeni yn gywir cyn bwrw ymlaen i ddatblygu prosiectau. Mae'r gwaith dros y blwyddyn diwethaf hyd yma wedi canolbwyntio ar dal yr elfennau yma yn ei lle. Mae yna gytundeb rhwng awdurdod wedi gytuno. Mae yna gydbwyllgor, sef Joint Committee, yn cyfarfod, ac mae yna grŵp strategaeth economaidd hefyd wedi sefydlu. Ac achos busnes ar gyfer partneriaeth sgiliaeth ac dysgu rhanbarthol, sef o'r RLSP, wedi ei dderbyn o'r diwedd. Ond mynd nôl i'r pwynt ynglyn â'r gweledigaeth Llywodraeth Cymru o ranbartholi, doedd Canolbarth Cymru ddim yn meddalwyd o gwbl pan sefydlwyd RLSPs, a dwi wedi bod yn ymchyrchu wastad 4-5 mlynedd i cael nhw i ddeall bod yn anghenion ni o ran swyddi yn y sectorau ni yn hollol wahanol. A mae'n rhaid i gael y ffocws yna o'r diwedd nhw wedi clywed y neges a dyn ni gallu symud i sefydlu RLSP o'r diwedd. A mae hwn yn gam pwysig iawn ymlaen i sicrhau bod ein cyflogwyr ni yn cael mynediad at hyfforddiant a sgiliau perthnasol i dyfiant i busnesau nhw. Rhywbeth sydd ddim yn digwydd ar hyn o'r bryd yn anffodus. Ond mae'n wendig hefyd yn y canolbarth o ran addysg trydyddol yn y ffaith bod yn y ddwy sir mae'r colega addysg bellach o dan oruchwyliaeth cyrff i'r de ohono ni. Nid bod Talbot yn achos Powys a Ffrind o Dewi Sant yn achos Coleg Ceredigion. Felly mae hwnna'n fater a rhaid ni cadw golwg arno fe i sicrhau bod y rheini sydd wedi darparu i ni hefyd gweithio gyda ni a mae nhw'n aelodau o'r partneriaeth tyfu canolbarth eisoes. Felly mae'n mor bwysig i gael y strwythura priodol yna i fedru creu trwy perthnasol. Bydd gwaith dros yr hydref rwan wrth symud ymlaen yn manylu llawer mwy ar y weithgaredd yn medrwn ni yn gefnogi. Mae meysydd rhaglen bras wedi ei gosod, sef meysydd twristiaeth, bwyd amaeth, cyfleoedd ymchwil a radio spectrum i'n elfen o hwnna. Sgiliau, dwi eisiau sôn amdano fe, a wedi ynni ar y economi carbon isel hefyd, sydd yn uchel iawn ar blaenoriaethau pobl wrth trafod gyda nhw. Mae rhain wedi deillio o gyfarfodydd ymgynghori a gynhaliwyd ar draws y rhanbarth. A bellach mae yna grwpiau gwaith ar y gweill fydd yn rhoi mewnbwn y sector breifat sydd yn allweddol trwy'r broses yma. Mae'n swyddogion ni'n gweithio gyda'r ddwy lywodraeth yn awr i osod allan amserlen clir mwyn adnabod yr heads of terms yn wedi clywed yn amdano fel y gwelir o'r rhanbarthau eraill. Mae'r broses yma yn medru bod yn un hir, ond ein bwyneb presennol yw cyflwyno dogfen gynnig i'r ddwy lywodraeth erbyn gobeithio mis Mawrth flwyddyn nesaf i Genningen. Ond mae angen i ni fod yn glir fan hyn, nid yw'r rhanbarth ar ei holyg o ran amserlen, a ni oedd y rhanbarth olaf i gael y cyfle i ddatblygu y del dwf, a ni jyst yn gobeithio bydd arian yna pan ni'n mynd i gyda'r yma. I gloi felly, ym mhob cyfarfod gyda gweinidog economi Cymru, mae'n rhaid dal i fod pwysleisio'r angen i gydnabod rhanbarth y canolbarth fel rhanbarth llawn. A diolch i Kevin am ei gyflwyniad o'r yma, a dwi'n gwybod bydd yn cydweithio gyda ni i gael y neges yna yn ôl. Eto beth, rhaid i fi ychwanegu. Mae hyn yn holl bwysig yn cyd-destun rhyngweithiau rhanbarthol economaidd arweithedig Llywodraeth Cymru. Mae'n hanfodol bod rhain yn cydnabod ac yn aludio gyda'r gwaith o'r canolbarth wedi wneud eisoes. Mae Llywodraeth leol yn awyddus ac yn agored i gydweithio gyda'r Llywodraeth er mwyn sicrhau bod mewn nodweddion unigryw yr economi wedi, ond strwythura llywodraethu ni yma yn Canolbarth Cymru yn cael eu cydnabod yn llawn fel rhanbarth, nid is-rhanbarth mohonol. Bydd hwnna'n John Bron yn dweud. Mae hefyd yn holl bwysig ein bod yn cydweithio'n agos yn y misoedd nesaf yn ddatblygiad llywodraethiant ehangach. Peth ola mae Cymru angen yw'r strwythurau a strategaethau sy'n datblygu ar y lefelau hanfarthol llawn fywir i anghenion ein seroedd yn cymunedau. A does gen i ddim gwrthwynebu'r gwbl i dynnu lle Gwynedd a Meirionnydd i mewn, ond y neges gael syniad Lundain oedd del ar gyfer ddwy sir i'w hon. Ond mae yna cynlluniau eraill sydd ddim yn berthnasol i'r del dwi'n siŵr y byddwn ni'n gallu cydweithio gyda De Gwynedd, achos mae'n enwedig trafnidiaeth yn enghraifft berffaith o lle mae hwnna mor bwysig i gael y llif nôl ymlaen ar draws fel mae'n digwydd ar draws a ni fyny i lawr Gogledd De. Mae Julie James wedi sicrhau bydd datblygu economaidd a chynllunio rhanbarthol ar sail Old Troy's tyfu'r canolbarth. Byddai'n cadw right wrth y tân ar honna bob tro byddai'n gweld i. Mae wedi dweud yn neud wedi wrthais, ond byddai'n neud bod trio sgau wedi'n cadw at i gael, bod wedi cael sgor wahanol gan Kent Case. Byddai am y sicrwydd yna yn cyfarfod nesaf y cyngor partneriad sydd yn cael ei gynnar y mis nesaf. Dylai fod yn glir i bawb bod angen ystrisiad gwahanol i Ganolbarth Cymru. Mae partneriad y rhanbarth yn ymateb wir her ac mae gwaith da eisoes wedi wneud i osod sail gadarn wrth symud ymlaen. Mae cyfle yma ar ydym ni'n edrych ymlaen i'w wireddu mewn partneriaeth. Diolch.
Amser gyda ni llenwi'r cwestiynau cyn mynd i Cymru symud i'r sesiwn panel cwestiynau. Unrhyw cwestiynau? Cael ei wlau. Iawn, ti'n meddwl opsiwn i, dybryd gyda fod yn gwneud y job yma. Victoria.
It's a straightforward question. What role do you see the universities playing in your region's growth? Because it sometimes seems from the outside that they're somewhat disconnected from the place that they're in.
No, in fact, obviously the university is definitely connected with us. We're working closely with the new centre, the Enterprise Centre run by Ian Hayward at the moment. So we've got close links with them. They've sit both universities sit on a one-year partnership, as do both FE colleges. So we've got those links.
Josh Myers from FSB. I'm really interested in the idea of how we do things differently in a rural context, because economic development can't look the same. We in the past said there needed to be some sort of task force for rural economies, just have a look at how we can perhaps get a bit more innovative around approaching this, particularly like with Brexit and what's going down the track with reforms there. I just wonder whether Mid Wales could be a really useful test bed for some of this, and we could take that learning, spread it out then, and we've already had that discussion about what the city did in Swansea in the rural context there, likewise North Wales we heard earlier on. So I just wonder if you have any thoughts on how we do things differently and what we can spread in that comes out of that process.
Well, FSB have got a seat on the partnership as well. And it's up to you to come to us to work with us. The officers, one of our officers here with me today, so I'd make that link now before I go. But as I said, the 90% of the economy is based on the small, on SMEs. So FSB has got a very important role. And foundation economy, that is the foundation economy. And it's, we need to make sure that that is also growing. But the bigger developments hopefully would feed in to strengthen that foundation economy. Well, that would be my hope anyway, that if we can create better paid jobs and get better paid opportunities there, we've got people there to spend their money in the foundation economy, which would help all your business.
Ellen, in the context of a rural locality, what single intervention would make a difference? I often used to think a 16-lane superhighway, I get anywhere, that's obviously not it. Would 5G make a difference? Is there any single thing that would make a discernible material difference?
I think
you can put your finger on it.
you could think on it, okay, Martin. It's the digital connectivity. It's so important. I was just saying that I've got like 4 or 5, half a dozen people within my own board who work from home and are reliant on using digital connectivity. Some of the printing businesses we've got in the county, along in Talbot and also Galway down in Amberstill, they both are reliant on receiving work over the lines. And if they don't have that proper connectivity, it's going to impact negatively on their business. So we've got to make sure that both the telephony is improved and the broadband. I was presenting what I was receiving questions from a room full of primary and secondary school children on Friday, and at least 2 of them asked me about that because they can't do their homework from home because they haven't got connectivity. So that's impacting on their education as well going forward. So it's something that affects across the piece.
Right, and draw it to an end now. We go into the panel discussion, and fortunately you have a much more able chair than I to chair that session. We have Keris Furlong, who is Chief Executive of Quality. Very welcome, Keris. But I'd like to thank Helen very, very much for her contribution before she joins the panel to go on. Now, Rob Stewart doesn't have to go, he had a few girls to go to. And I don't think Kelly's, she's not here, is she? There's no sign there. But please, and in terms of the timing, it's about 2:20 now, so let's look to wrap it up before 3 o'clock, okay? So we know how much time we've got. Thank you very much. Keris, over to you.
I was sitting in the audience listening to those last 2 really interesting presentations thinking, it's a shame I hadn't been here all day, and I was also thinking, I wonder why Alan asked me to chair this session, and I thought it's because he knows that I'm a nosy busybody who likes to get involved in all sorts of things, and I probably arrive here with lots of different hats on that have a personal and professional interest in the success or otherwise of all of the different growth deals across Wales. So I used to be a councillor in Cardiff, so I've got some experience of that kind of strategic planning that we try to do at a local authority level. I'm now Chief Exec of WISERD, which is a leading gender equality charity in Wales, but our particular focus is on enabling women to achieve and prosper. But I'm also involved in the capital region as part of the Economic Growth Partnership and the investment panel that's been set up. And finally, through my husband, I'm a small business owner. So there are some big questions around how do you engage with SMEs, which are very much, as Ellen said, the foundation of our economy in Wales, to make sure that they benefit and all the people they employ, all the work that they do benefit from some of this. So I've got a vested interest there, I've declared it, as every good councillor knows you have to do at the start of a meeting. And Alex and I had a quick sharing of notes a minute ago. I think there's a couple of key themes we pulled out, but not just from the last 2 sessions, but also from your presentations this morning. So I will use Chair's privilege at various stages to throw in a couple of questions and to try and stimulate discussion, but very much want it to be open to everybody else here. So if you've got a question that you want to ask or you want to respond, great. Then please let us know, and if you could tell us who you are, not least for my own benefit, because I haven't been here all day, that would be really helpful. Did you want to start?
I'm Ted McKee, I'm the Wales Director of the District Communities Alliance. The speaker this morning from Gwynedd, whose name I would find difficult to pronounce.
Why? Does it think it's difficult to pronounce my name?
talked about letting small parts of your area able to do something themselves to focus on their particular areas. In England, following Theresa May's offered funding to persuade Labour MPs to vote for the deal, she introduced what turned out is now called the Stronger Towns Fund. And recently there was an announcement that 100 local authorities in England have been encouraged to come up with a town deal for 100 communities with a figure of 25 million available for them. This is not nothing to do with town centres, this is to do with skills, infrastructure, business. Now, it doesn't seem to, although there has been mention of it applying in Wales, there doesn't seem to be a great deal of lively enthusiasm or resources available to do that. But the bargain size figure would be 120 million over 6 years. So you could probably only do about 5 or 6 schemes if you went that way, which would really provide a wide-ranging initiative for Wales.
So, as I understand it, the scheme won't apply in Wales unless Welsh Government decide they want to do something similar. In your view, would that be a helpful approach to some of the challenges that we face?
First of all, I don't think we should adopt English policies for rural Wales. Why should we? If we have that funding, let us make a decision how we spend it best ourselves. As I understand it, Cyfarthus do have a strategy for their market towns. And I think there is merit in that discussion, further discussion. As I say, I'm a great believer in subsidiarity. I'm a great believer in that we, as local authorities, should develop our own plans and strategies which fit our own local circumstances. One size does not fit all, and something which suits Carmarthenshire, Ceredigion even, may not suit us in Gwynedd, and in fact may not suit all parts of Gwynedd together. I mentioned that this morning, that I think we should be considering smaller areas within our counties, more local areas, to try and address their particular problems, which may differ from one end of the county to another. For instance, we have a coastal area which has a high age pension population. People have moved in. We have post-industrial areas like Bedford and Northwell. We have a city in Bangor which is suffering from high street syndrome. So there's not one answer to all those problems. Sorry, I ramble on.
Question back really to both yourself and to the other members of the panel in response to that. How do you square the circle of local responsive projects and initiatives that are based in communities and therefore all good devolutionists would say better able to respond to those needs, and the need for kind of national strategic infrastructure including social infrastructure? Is that a challenge?
Yeah, just 2 points, direct answer to your question. What's interesting about the list of towns on that announcement is that they're all kind of, to varying degrees, marginal seats. If you look at the electoral geography behind it, there's some great tweets by John Selby from Kurds about this. And also, to answer your own question, if you divide it by the place, you divide it by 6 years, it's effectively peanuts. So, and there was lots of social media activity about the classic pork barrel politics of it buying votes. Yes, I mean, there's an issue if it ever came to bear that money. Your second point's interesting because a lot of the discussion this morning is about what's appropriate at what geographical level. I found subsidiarity, but also found a coordination at the appropriate level. But there's a danger if you follow subsidiarity to its smallest element, you'll end up with excessive localism. There's an interesting question about what is appropriate at which level. And Kevin's point earlier is how you coordinate it. So there's a real interesting question about how far you go and about what scale you do spatial planning, what scale transport infrastructure is operated on. The problem then is you end up with multiple plans at different horizons, and which plans actually ensure. So you call both ways. So again, subsidiarity is great for mobilising those grassroots interests, but there's a danger of over-localising it, and then basically end up with territorial politics and turf fighting. We saw that this morning in the discussion therein. So it's some really interesting questions about what's appropriate, what level, but also the European examples around federalism and multi-level development work, and it's one of the points earlier, Kevin, about what we can learn from what's appropriate at what level. You know, these are really interesting questions.
Ask Ellen and then I'm going to bring this gentleman in.
Use the regeneration funding that's available to us under the TRIP funding. That has been allocated roughly according to the 4 regions. At least they have recognised the 4 regions. Now we work with POWIS in recognising where that regeneration needs to go. But although we do that, and we've got a panel set up to look through and assess the applications that come in, we can't make a final decision. That's got to go back to Cardiff. Why? You know, that again is a perfect example of centralisation and central control. They won't even allow us, even after allocating funding, they won't allow us to make a final decision on the use of that fund. You know, I would ask why.
You wanted to come in?
Yeah, John Lloyd Jones, Chairman of the National Infrastructure Commission for Wales, and Mariana's Hill Farmer, complicated life. This question really, especially for Elliot and Dudbury, when we come to rural economy, are we using the right measurements for trying to define exactly what is success? If you look at Powys, it has probably one of the highest startup percentages of micro businesses anywhere in the country. It also has the highest percentage of people who volunteer. Now put those two together, that to me is a pretty good definition of a fairly contented society. If you look at productivity, I can increase the productivity of care workers for you very easily in rural Wales, and that's put everybody that they look after under one roof. Their productivity would go up, but the quality of life of the people that were looking after them would go severely down. If you look at businesses based on traditional skills, and there are quite a lot of those in rural Wales, think of Timawr, Lyme, Dinever Gates. If you're a stone waller, then how are you going to increase your productivity compared to stonewalling 50 years ago? Are we actually using the right measurements for actually defining what success is all about? Because I suspect that we are using urban measures that actually are not all that relevant to rural societies and economies.
So the question there about are we using the right measures, if perhaps you two could think about that from the rural perspective. I think there's a wider issue about inclusivity more broadly, and most of the measures are based on increasing GVA, but for what purpose and for whom will benefit from this growth? So perhaps we can start with the rural issue and then extend.
Sorry, you're right. I don't think we are using the right measurements, and I'm not sure what the right measurements are. I don't think yardage of stonewalling is the right mechanism. By the way, stonewalling is really dependent on the subsidies we get from Europe at the moment, the agricultural subsidies. Absolutely, if those disappear, your stonewallers will disappear. And that really is a great concern to us in rural areas. If we lose that agricultural economy and we become a country of ranchers, or even, John, and this is a favourite subject of mine, even if we go down the route of rewilding rural areas, then we won't need to measure anything at all, because there won't be anything there to measure. And I'll get on my box about that.
You can listen to the answers.
Let me give you just one example where the measurement is wrong, is the measurement on deprivation. It's an urban definition, doesn't fit the rural situation. We in Meirionydd have the lowest household income in the whole of the UK, if not in Europe. Now that isn't a measurement. And we're not described as deprived because everybody has a car, because they have to have a car to travel, because we don't have a transport system. So those are the kinds of things that are wrong with what you're describing, John, and I agree with you.
Yeah, well, I would agree completely, because we've got the ridiculousness now. We have to put a new LDP, local development plan, in place, and we've been constrained in which communities we can put in to be developed further, because they haven't got the bus route. Well, why haven't they got a bus route? Because we haven't had any money to keep bus routes going. So, you know, you're being stymied from every direction. I'm sorry, but Welsh Government does not listen to the needs of rural areas properly, and they go happily on with the metrics that are suitable for more urban and perhaps the valleys areas, but they're definitely not suitable for all our rural areas, wherever they may be.
Yeah, well, quite apart from the urban-rural distinction, which is an important one, as we said this morning, I think what we have not touched upon really today is the fact that in Wales today we've got a coexistence of two very different developmental models. We've got the traditional model, which I referred to this morning as the level of the Treasury in London, which is basically GVA uplift. It's a narrow definition of economic metrics of development, and that's what many of the city growth deals have been brought into. Alongside that model in Wales, Wales has pioneered, I think, a wholly new, more capacious model of development, framed around the well-being of future generations legislation, which has a totally different set of metrics, as we know, one of which, of course, is a prosperous economy, but it's much broader, much wider. And this is the model that I find our foreign students are in awe of when they come, when our master students. They want to know more about it. It's what is distinctive about Wales. Some people would suggest I'd be one of them, that is probably the most innovative thing we've done in 20 years of devolution in Wales, generate that piece of legislation. So it's as well to be aware of these different sets of metrics, and somehow we need to embrace both.
Well, that's my question. So we're in the Morgan Academy. Rodri talked about trying to have the twin pillars of social justice and economic prosperity. Can we pull it off? Does the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act and our economic growth strategy sit apart? Does one usurp the other, or can they be integrated?
Well, Martin will come in and go, the short answer is yes. They are apart. Future Generation is a wonderful piece of legislative innovation. Our challenge in Wales is delivering it. As you know, there are 7 well-being goals, 5 ways of working, 46 indicators, all put on 44 public bodies who have had 10 years have been eviscerated by 10 years of austerity. So as we're raising the game, what we're asking bodies to do, we've reduced their delivery capacity to meet it. That goes back to the capacity problem that I identified this morning. Sorry, Martin.
No, adding to that, there's the context around future generations challenges the GVA mentality that you're raising. So I had the missed pleasure of sitting on the Royal Society of Arts' Inclusive Growth Commission as one of the research advisors, and we couldn't come up with an alternative to GVA. There was discussions in the room about SVA, social value adding, and ONS were in the audience as well. ONS have an issue with GVA, because GVA can't cope with travel to work areas, even there's an issue with it as an urban indicator. But you're right, I mean, it needs to be looked at. So I'm thinking about, what would an SVA, like a social value added dynamic of growth look like? That's really interesting in terms of the context of future generations, or what metrics or what multipliers can one put on social justice? Is it incompatible with growth? Is it inclusive growth oxymoronic? It's impossible. Really interesting things to think about, but certainly I think it's a bedrock of what legislation in Wales for starting to talk about these things. So at least we've got that discourse, that opportunity to start to challenge some of those Treasury Green Book mentalities of X% uplift which drive all public policy, regardless of certain devolved context. That's the mantra that we challenge, and we kind of saw it in terms of the example of Swansea Bay, probably, about why they've gone down the private sector market failure route, because the imperatives around funding. But the points you're raising, with Paris being, I think, 2/3 of the landmass of Wales as well, it is a huge kind of economic and rural challenge. So I think your points are extremely well made.
I can almost hear Victoria's brain whirring around social value added, so I will pick on you, the lady at the back, and then the lady with the bottle.
Bettina Peters, I'm a lecturer in politics from the university. I would actually touch pretty much into what you've been discussing at the moment, the whole tensions and conflicts between different governments, and within ways delivering those or designing those fields has to meet the targets set by the UK government in those basically priorities. And my question is really, how much autonomy does a local council within that city, region, or city actually have to shape what goes in there, what the targets are, or what they can deliver to the local authority population and themselves? Because you touched upon trust, and the whole issue between citizens and council, I think, is about also delivering to the local population. So how much autonomy is left if we think about 3 different governments, or 3 levels of governments being involved, and the funding is coming to condition, and funding is crucial to deliver anyways? From your experience, like working on the ground and doing that.
How much time and capacity do you allocate to this?
Well, perhaps it's easier for us, there's only 2 proposals. So we're perhaps a bit closer.
Is it easier or more difficult if you have only 2?
I don't, well, you know, it's early days for us working together, especially on the growth deal. It can throw a bit of problems, because there are only 2 of us. We've got to agree, otherwise, you know, you haven't got a third person there to negotiate between. Yeah, so perhaps it'd be easier for Dublin with 6 counties to answer that.
I'm not sure whether I heard the question properly. If I understood part of it was how much influence do we have on the actual project? Yes.
A little bit. I mean, I know that the deals.
Sorry.
Our targets basically so rigid you can't really set things down.
Okay. I think when we developed our projects ourselves, okay?
And you said you pushed back, but how did you protect the autonomy of the local level? How did you manage that?
Yeah, well, we told them we weren't going to change our projects, and what happened was actually we had basically a game of semantics. I think we had, I don't know, I can't remember, I think we had about 24 projects in order to begin with, and they said that's too much. You need 3. I said, we're not having 3, but this is what suits us. Anyway, we put a few projects together, okay? We bundled them, and we came up with 14 projects, and they said, oh, that's too much as well. And eventually they had a workshop. They had to have a workshop, okay, to come up with a grand idea. Oh, well, let's put them into 6 themes, okay, and then you can have the individual projects with the themes. Fine, I said, I don't care what the themes are. Yeah, we'll do that for you. Fine. And eventually we had to agree that we would phase them as well. There are 6 of the projects which in the first phase, which we would have had to do in any case. But basically, other than playing around with semantics, we've got the projects which we wanted. 1 or 2 which are sort of sidelined somewhere, but we realised that probably that was going to happen. And the other question was the capacity to undertake.
Are we getting tied up in knots with all of the managing relationship between UK government, Welsh government, local government, between intra-local government, and with communities themselves?
Yes, really, yeah. I mean, I would venture to say that most of my time is spent working in some form of partnership with another regional or a sub-regional basis. And I do fear sometimes that I may certainly lose touch with my own fellow councillors, and I certainly would say that my work isn't relevant to my electors.
And Ellen, you mentioned a number of times
Probably lose my seat next time.
different panels that FE and HE or the private sector might be involved in. Are those an effective way of ensuring that everybody has a chance to shape both what the strategy is and how it's implemented?
They are already sitting on the wider partnership. The smaller the joint committee is just the members of both cabinets from Powers and Hertfordshire. So it's a slightly different structure to the others because we are only 2 counties. So there are 4 cabinet members from each county plus the 2 of us as leaders. So it's a panel of 10 there. but the chair of the economic strategy group will also join us, so we will have somebody who can hopefully help us to clear any, if we're not on the same page with something. But it is a difficult one. We've set it up, but we haven't really got it to work. It hasn't got into a working stage yet. That's the next step.
I think there's an interesting challenge, perhaps, that no one will be able to answer, that we question. Do we rely too much on the same methods for planning and delivering as we have, and the frameworks that local government and Welsh Government and UK Government do as to, or should we, as well as the projects, challenge the mechanism? Come to the lady, and then if I take the two questions.
I just wanted to make a point and then on the indicators, and then I've got a question. Going back, I agree it's disappointing that these city deals are being measured around GPA only, because that doesn't fully represent the ambition of the Wellbeing Future Generations Act. And the fact that it's more than GPA, we know, that makes a good life for people. You know, what gives people good wellbeing, it isn't just GPA. We have got a suite of national wellbeing indicators that includes things like volunteering. We've got the ONS who are measuring national wellbeing using things like life satisfaction measures, whether people feel that what they do in their life is worthwhile. I think it would be really encouraging to see the city deals, although they're not being expected to measure those outcomes. I think it would be really encouraging to see the city deals looking to measure what their impact is on indicators like life satisfaction. We've got good data on this now. There's no reason not to be using it. We've got mental well-being at a national level, local authority level. So although they're not, you're not having to be measured on those things, you could be choosing to say, well, what difference are we making to well-being? My question, in Public Health Wales, we're beginning to explore what the implications of the new UK trade policy are on public health and wellbeing. Post-Brexit, the UK will be making a new independent trade policy. And I'm interested to know where the city regions might be considering how they might how will they be affected by a new trade policy, how they might try and influence a new trade policy, bearing in mind that it could have big implications for the economy and labour markets.
Kevin wants to respond quickly, and then I'll come to you.
Very, very quickly on your first point about metrics and well-being. I think it links back to what I tried to say earlier about these two models. There's an extremely interesting announcement, I think, will come out of Welsh Government shortly, about the successful bids to the Foundational Economy Challenge Fund. I know this is a modest fund, but it's extremely important, it seems to me, as a straw in the wind. Because in terms of, why this was important is because they put this challenge out there. No template, no prescription. They just said, bid into this from localities, municipalities, whatever, on projects that really matter to you. This was quite important because it showed the kind of projects that localities had reason to value. And that's what was so important, why it's so important to my mind. So we're waiting to see the successful bids, but already we've broken down the data on the expressions of interest. The responses from all over Wales, over 300 expressions of interest. The top three, food, health, and adult social care. Housing and energy came fourth and fifth. Extremely interesting. Those are the things that mattered to people, to localities. And I think it's well worth remembering that Kenny Burke said that they hope to incorporate some of this thinking into their city and to the Challenge Fund. So there are ways of bridging this divide between, the crude GVA uplift model and the more capacious well-being model.
Taking back to the economists, the university here. It comes back to indicators, I suppose, and it's to the two academics, I suppose. You spend a lifetime looking at regional economic development. And I suppose in economics we talk, this is a nerdy sort of question, but I think it has relevance, about deadweight loss when it comes to regional economic policy. So when we had a policy supporting Wales and very poor areas, you'd attract firms in. Now everywhere in the country's got a city deal, and Rob Stewart mentioned about the activity that was being shown in Swansea. But if you've got these city deals everywhere, we're just all chasing the same jobs and then moving around. So I are city deals working? Are they the future, or should we really be doing something else?
David, really interesting, because I was pondering on that question before you asked it about the relationship between city deals and private sector market failure, about how it influences the private sector in terms of whether it actually creates market failure, because the private sector knows the public is coming and pulls out in terms of that economic analysis, or whether that's not the case given the proportion of small firms in the economy. Certainly a lot of this is driven around responses to market failure and government failure. And if you didn't do it, would the private sector pick up the tab anyway? Probably not, given the state of the economy. But really, really interesting analysis. Difficult to generalise across, of course, because these city deals are often in difficult economic climates, aren't they?
One aspect, given what we know about North Wales and what Ellen was talking about Mid Wales, that there are distinctive economic challenges in rural Wales, shall we say, not least small micro firms in scattered communities. This is one area where we can start to learn again, I think, from the Basque. One of the Basque provinces, Gipuzkoa, is all about small firms. It's where the cooperatives are based. They're small, they're scattered. And the Basque attitude of these things, and this is where I believe we should start engaging under the Welsh-Basque Memorandum of Understanding. The Basque, they're not obsessed about scale. Being small is not the problem. Being lonely is the problem. In other words, firms that are not part of wider networks, to keep small or micro firms abreast of good practice, abreast of advanced technology. That's the key thing. So if you're outside the network, you're basically outside the market. So I don't think we should obsess about smallness. We should obsess about loneliness, both in the economic sense and the social sense.
Just one point coming back, if I will. So I agree, but the interesting thing is, if you take the Emilia model, if you look at where, in European context that you mentioned, small firms work, is they're often in networked alliances. They collaborate together, they undertake training and tech transfer. They don't compete, and often that's family networks, wider family networks, but an understanding by sector that collaboration is better than competition. And that's some of the right, look at the Emilia model of North Italy, some of the ceramic craft growth drivers that we've looked at for 20 years in terms of copying. The those networks of collaboration that make them work.
The point you made about smallness, I think that's important, that the Welsh Government doesn't seem to recognise that small is beautiful. I knew Leopold Cohen when he was working in the extramural department in Aberystwyth years ago now, but he, as Schumann, they were working from the same philosophy, that small is beautiful, and that you can work on a smaller scale and get it to work for people's well-being, because it's closer to them, they understand it better. And the care sector is a case in point. It needs to be close to people. The trouble with the care sector is we've been starved of funding. Health is giving the funding, but health, I was listening to somebody on the radio this morning complaining, there's still the lack of connectivity between health and care. The reason is, health are given the funding, care isn't. And until they're properly funded equally, so that one can flow more easily, that patients or individuals can flow more easily between medical services and the care services, then things aren't going to improve, unfortunately, to the detriment of everybody's well-being. But the point you made about trade and well-being is what was really worrying me is if Brexit shoots a huge hole in our farmers' markets and the lamb industry specifically. They're out in New Zealand now talking about a deal. Now if that's going to bring cheaper New Zealand lamb in to the detriment of our local farmers, are we going to see highland clearances in Wales because sheep farmers can't keep going? That's something that really worries me from an economic standpoint for our more rural areas.
Yeah, I don't think cross deals, by definition, understand small. And certainly governments don't at the moment anyway. Certainly Westminster government doesn't understand small. The pressure on us was to have bigger projects, bigger firms into projects, bigger private sector involvement. And as I said earlier, our area it's full of micro businesses. And this idea that you've just mentioned now, it seems to me is part of the answer. And I said as well that the growth deal is one thing, and we certainly haven't considered international trade. We just concentrate on getting the documents signed at the moment. We're not getting that far. But I said also that once we've got this growth deal sorted, we need to look at how we really make a difference at a local level and these small businesses and at a community level. The growth deal doesn't do that, I don't think.
To make some difference.
Can I actually address both of us? After the last election, we re-looked at our corporate priorities. On top of those priorities, because I see Brexit on the horizon, was boosting the economy. So we have actually invested in extra staff in that, because we weren't overly reliant on EU funding for the staffing we had for economic development in the past. So we've tried to bring some core funding to bear on strengthening the developing economy because of the factors that we've just talked about. We're all suffering like that. But if we don't try and boost the economy, then there's no hope of helping those people to better themselves going forward. So it's a delicate balance because we've lost about 800 staff over the past 8 years since I've been leader. All we've been doing is cutting, and the capacity is reduced. So, we've got to make sure we make best use of the capacity we've got and the funding we've got in order. And we've been radically reviewing everything. And transformation was at the front of my agenda when I first started, and that has taken a long time, but it's beginning to bear fruit. And we've really radically shut. We're not silo-based anymore, we're corporately based. Everybody has to, each service area has to relate to the other in order to make sure that whatever projects go forward make sense for the whole council and all our citizens as far as we possibly can, and make the best use of our scarce resources. So that's where I'm coming from.
Last couple of words from...
Vicky mentioned public procurement. I think I'm the only person in Wales who gets excited when I hear that, or when there's two of us. Whatever happened to austerity comes in, it's been going on for 10 years, but every year Wales spends 6 billion. Every year we spend 6 billion on public procurement, and therefore we have to deploy it more effectively, it seems to me. Our bid into the Cardiff Capital Region, which spends half of that budget, is to use public procurement for promoting well-being and other policy goals. Because for far too long in Wales, low cost has masqueraded as best value. And we're challenging this in our bid, bidding in university with Nesta into the Cardiff Capital Region to create a new community of practice in Wales among public procurement officers, because that function has atrophied over the last 10 years.
Just briefly agree, but let me give you kind of a non-Wales figure, which is that link between devolution and austerity. So I looked at this in the context of the Sheffield City Regional deal, which was 750 million, that never happened because Dan Jarvis couldn't make it work until recently. So if you look at that, it was 750 million over 30 years. We looked at 2 years and how much money had gone out of the economy. So all the benefit changes and all the operating cuts, it's 2.85 billion in 2 years. And we looked at it and showed people, and they didn't believe it. It was front page of the Yorkshire Post in terms of this can't be true, there's no link between devolution and austerity. The Yorkshire Post ran a feature on it, and there's a debate between ourselves and Mike Hendrick and the local government chronicle about it, about there being no link, where we said, yes, there is a link. And it's that link between signing up to the spending review figures in the background. Yeah, I agree to the savings, but there's a reality out there of how you politicise that, which I know you do in this room, but those figures need to be debated and looked across the UK about what's happening. I know Steve Fothergill's work in terms of the industrial and community alliances is publicising on this stuff.
I think we could probably continue the conversation for hours, but Alan's given me the signal. So can I ask you to thank all the panelists?